Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, Charlamagne the guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got some special guests joining us this morning.
Yes, indeed.
We got the brother Mysonne.
What's going on, King?
And we have the brother Jay Jordan. Welcome, brother.
Oh, good looking. Thank you for having me.
Neither one of them missing no push-ups.
No.
You know what I mean?
Mm-mm.
You ain't missing none either now.
I'm doing all right.
Don't front.
I'm doing all right.
Now, what's going on, brothers? How's everything?
Everything is good, man. You know, just navigating. You know, especially in this society. I pretty much just came here to let my brother do most of the talking. You know, we've been family. You know, Carmen. This is Carmen's husband. So we met.
Carmen Perez.
Carmen Perez. You know, and we met through that. But he's just an amazing individual. You know, he's formerly incarcerated, and the work he does now for formerly incarcerated people is just phenomenal. You know, he started with this organization called Time Done, and we did a concert, which the late great Nipsey was there, and you know, me and Nipsey built for like 2 hours there. He had me interviewing Nipsey. It was one of the final days that the year, probably 6 months before he passed away, and from there he started this safety organization. What is it called again? Alliance for Safety and Justice organization, which is focused on getting people who have records expunged. You know, after you've done your time and you've been in society and show that you're a productive member, you know, it's so much collateral damage that comes with being a felon or a formerly incarcerated individual. And, you know, he's been doing that work. He's actually got some of these laws passed in California right now. So we're working to try to align with other individuals who have platforms, who've been formerly incarcerated, like myself and himself, and just other people in general who have platforms that understand how, you know, people who have records can be, you know, productive members of society and continue to help us move this mission forward.
I'm glad you're here because I actually have a question about expungement. So I know in certain towns you had a certain, I think the date was May 1st or June 1st. You have a certain amount of time where you can go to the courthouse, fill out the paperwork, and they can expunge some of the stuff that was on your record. But my question has always been, when you do get something expunged, is it really off your record? I'm gonna tell you why.
We just had this.
I had a case when I was 19 or 20 in Virginia, 20 years ago. When I went to get my license for my handgun in Jersey, I'm licensed in 38 states, but they just allowed it to have it. It popped up. Yeah. And I was like, it's supposed to be expunged. Yeah. But obviously it wasn't. So I'm like, is this really just some BS where it's not really expunged? I still was able to get it, but it made me jump through a couple of hoops that I shouldn't have had to jump through because they told me it was quote unquote expunged.
Yeah, all right. So there's
and it wasn't a violent crime or nothing like that, but still.
Yeah, so there's like some level setting I want to do, right? So most people in America don't know the information I'm going to give you. So what is a criminal record? A criminal record is a line of data. It's a history of someone breaking the law and exists in 4 different forms. The first form is what the police have in their car. It's the law enforcement telecommunication system. So when you get, I got pulled over coming here, right? When they see your license plate and they run it, they pull up everything about you, and that never goes away. So the cops can see everything you've done. You got in trouble with the law,
even
everything.
If it was expunged.
They can see it all, right? Telecommunication system, every state has one. The second one is the courthouse. This is the one that's crazy. This is data that the court houses, and you can buy it. Anyone can go and buy the data. So your data is for sale right now, and it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. The background check companies, multi-billion-dollar industry. After 9/11 in 2003, they started the Background Check Association of America, and they exploded. So much so, because we live in a fear-based society after 9/11, everyone started to do background checks. 9 out of 10 employers do background checks. 4 out of 5 landlords do background checks. So everyone is buying your data. Right now, you can go to the county courts in San Joaquin County in Stockton, California, and pull my record up. You can. It's for sale. That's the second place. The third place is the state. Every state has either a Department of Justice or a state police. That is just a record of information. So if you get your record expunged, it goes DJ Envy, gun charge, and then expungement. So you can see everything. And then the FBI has a database, which is what they run when you try to get a gun. So these criminal records live in these 4 databases. Expungement is a process where it's supposed to shield. A lot of states don't have an expungement statute where people can just get rid of your record. It doesn't exist, right? For several reasons. One mainly being that the court systems don't have the technology to do it. So when we started in California 5 years ago, And I'm like, wait a minute, I can never get my record away? I'm always going to live with this record? The answer was yes. So it took us 5 years. Everyone told us we couldn't do it. I don't know. I walked around with a penal code like 7,000 pages, writing the law, trying to figure it out, built a team around this. And it took us 5 years to pass this. We had to learn the data systems in California. We had to work with the Department of Justice. We had to work with courthouses. All the attorneys who've been working on this for years told us we couldn't do it. Everyone told me I was crazy, right? I got a record. I got a record. And people were like, Jay, this cannot be done. I said, shit, you crazy. So we passed 3 sets of laws and one budget, and now everybody in California has access to expungement except for sex offenders. It took us 5 years to do that. It took us a sold-out concert at the Greek. We had to bring 500 families up to the State House. We had to do that over and over and over. The reason being is this, that in America, there are 80 million people with a record. 80 million, that's more than the population of Canada, right? And 9 out of 10 of those folks already served our time. They're like us. We're mothers, fathers. We ain't committed no crimes. We're not criminals. We just broke the law a while ago. My crime was...
We was young and didn't know no better.
Exactly. I was 18, fresh out of high school, right? The problem with having a record in America is you face what is called collateral consequences. No one really knows what this stuff is. Collateral consequences are legal restrictions that kick in after you serve your time. These are 40,000 of these things. Half of them are employment related and lock people out of entire industries, healthcare, insurance, government, education. You can't work in if you have a felony. So you're locked out of society and you can't rent anywhere. You literally can't rent in places in Midtown or Uptown because they run background checks. So folks are forced to move to the Bronx, right? Or move to Newark, right? They're all living together, and the impacts of not being able to make the money you need to make not being able to make the money because you can't get the job, it impacts your lifelong earning. It brings down your health outcomes. It is bad for a lot of families, right? And it causes what is called post-conviction poverty all around the country. So when you see people around here walking down the streets, homeless, addicted, and they're like, and we're all like, what happened? At some moment in time, they broke the law and they couldn't get back on their feet, right? And so what we're saying is there is a way out of that. We call it sunset laws. It takes a long time to do, but we're doing it. And folks like Mysonne, folks like you, folks like, with platforms that can help us raise awareness about this is the only way we'll get past it.
So how does it work?
Yeah, how does that work? What's the solution?
I mean, so it is literally passing state laws. Like we have to go state by state and dissect these laws. Again, listen, I got a record 20 years ago. My wife never did nothing. We can never adopt kids. We're getting up there in age. We can never adopt kids.
In some states, if it was a felon, she can't even have a gun in the house.
100%.
She can't have a gun with a felon in the house, which
100%.
is wild.
100%. So how am I supposed to protect myself or my family, right? And I am not the exception, I'm the rule. And when I tried to go change this, everybody told me no. Everybody was like, it is impossible. But the only way was, we literally had to bring, it took us, like I say, 5 years, but we had to bring sheriffs, DAs, judges, police, and tell them what was going on. They didn't even know. The courts didn't even know, and the problem with all of this is 98% of convictions come with a plea bargain. You took a deal.
Of course.
I took a deal. You took a deal, right? We took deals. Nowhere on our deal told us that we're going to be facing 40,000 legal restrictions. Nowhere on the deal they told you, DJ Envy, oh, you have problems owning the gun. They didn't tell you that. They don't tell you that.
So this is actual tangible things you can touch when you say 40,000 restrictions. Because in my mind, I'm just like, yeah, of course, we can't get apartments, we can't get guns, but these are actual
laws. These are actual laws. These are listed laws. You can go to the National Inventory of Collateral Consequences Resource Centers.
Saying you can't be a
dog walker. It's the National Inventory of Collateral Consequences.
That's crazy.
Go to the website, National Inventory of Collateral Consequences, and you can look all these laws up. It is written laws like Penal Code Section 235. You can't be a dog walker. Penal Code, 40,000 of these things, right? And people are walking around and don't even know.
It's crazy because it's like Remy Ma was up here a couple of months ago and she was saying the court system is so effed up that, it's almost like the district attorney gets paid for the success rate instead of really seeing what actually happened, right? Because they're going through whatever they got to do to win, but are they really trying to understand what happened, right? Because most of the times, just like you or myself, we're in court and they offer us a deal, right? Why do we usually take a deal? Because we understand, one, we can't win in their court. And two, it's usually we can't afford to win in their court. We can't afford for this to keep going on. And also, we take a lesser charge and we're like, F it, we ain't got to go do no time, or we got to do short time. But then we never realize what happens 10 years later.
That's how
what
they get you when you're young.
later.
When you're young and don't know no better, that's when they get you.
And that's
everybody
what I'm
does
saying.
it.
And that's why the system is built on white supremacy, because white people they know that. Right? So they don't go and cop out. They get lawyers, and the lawyers is giving them the best deal. When you go there and you ain't got no money, and you like, and they say probation, you like, all right, I'm gonna get probation. Then you end up like Meek, and you on probation for 15 to 20 years, and they locking you up for 2 years every time you step on the.
I was on probation for 10 years for
That's-
petty
that is
larceny.
crazy.
For
It's-
petty
it's
larceny. If
crazy.
anything would happen in that 10 years, I would have had to do 4 years
Yeah.
for petty larceny. But like you said, my attorney came into court.
said
His
it's the best
shoelaces
deal.
wasn't tied. He had to tuck his. It was bad.
He
But-
had 10 cases, 30 cases he got to see in
Exactly.
10 minutes. He like, listen, they offering you probation. Look, you're not going to do nothing, right? Just go ahead. Cop out. It's the best deal you're going to get. And you like, all right. He said so.
My dad said for 10 years he couldn't sleep because he was like, for 10 years he thought anything could happen and I would be in
But they
trouble.
could, because I mean, even though those probation laws are crazy, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't be around nobody else who's on probation. I can't be
You
around
can't
nobody
even
else
have
who got
police
felonies.
contact.
No
nothing.
contact, nothing.
Yeah.
So this is like, I have hope because, like, you know, we cracked the code in California. We cracked the code. So if you're in California right now and you got a record that did not result in a prison term, the state of California will automatically expunge your record. It's happening.
But what does that mean?
So expungement in California means that you, if you're not trying to work in education, if you're not trying to work in any industry that's dealing with vulnerable populations, you're not trying to get a gun, or you're not trying to work for law enforcement, nobody else can see it, right? So you can get a house, you can get a career, you can go on with your life, right? If you have a record and it did result in a prison term like me, you can petition the court. So not only did I write the damn law, all right, and launch a movement to pass it, but I was the first one to file. So Friday we're flying to California, and I'm going in front of a judge to get my record expunged. So if you're in California and you went to prison, you can file for your expungement. I want to say this, man, because a lot of times there's a big stigma around having a record. Nobody wants to tell people you got a record. Like, it's like, oh, I don't want to tell people I'm struggling. So we just, thrive in spite of having a record. We're not out here, a lot of folks aren't out here dusty and dirty. We're working, but there are things we just can't do. And we just suffer in silence. Like, there are people that are out here fighting. We launched the movement, Time Done. Go to timedone.org. You are not alone. If you have a record, you are not alone. I am fighting for you. Like, there are people that are fighting for people with records. You can call us anytime. We will pick up. You can email us anytime. We're going to pick up because nobody else is doing this. There's no Superman coming for us. It's us.
So back to your expungement. So if you will get expunged, right? We'll put it out there. What comes from that? Like what happens now? Like what changes? What can the police see? What can they not see? What can a renter see? Can you walk a dog now? Can you adopt a child now? Like what will you be able to do? Can you own a firearm? Like what changes?
Yeah, so the thing around anything that has to do with federal background checks, we can't change. Ever. Right? If you have a felony in California or in a lot of states and you try to own a firearm, it's not gonna work.
So when you fly in from vacation, they're gonna pull you.
Yeah.
Usually. So okay, so what changes?
So for me, I can rent. I can go and rent. For me, I can go and get my real estate license, my insurance license, all the stuff that I wanted to do to make money on the side. I can go do that now, right? For millions of people, it's like 8 million people in California, they can actually do that now, right? When they get their record expunged. In other states, I mean, listen, this doesn't exist in the world. Like no other country does this type of expungement we did in California. No other state. We went as far as everybody. Nobody's doing this. And so, in Texas, in New York, in Colorado, in Utah, Nevada, you don't have laws like we passed in California. And that's what our goal is to pass these laws in every single state in the union. And it's difficult to do because the question always remains, well, what is an expungement? That can mean different things in different states. We just have to build the campaigns around it, right? Like, so in California, it means that because that was the compromises we had to take.
Right.
It was a political viability. But in other states, like people may not have to take those compromises. It's literally state by state, campaign by campaign, and the only way we do that is to launch these things, and that's what we're doing.
Jay, can you break down how like you can get an expungement, and then some people say you should get a pardon afterwards. What's the difference between expungement and
a pardon doesn't do shit.
Okay.
Right. So a pardon is literally you got a pardon, right? So, like, remember I told you about the 4 record repositories? The state DOJ is where a pardon will show up, and what it does is it says J. Jordan robbery, right? J. Jordan pardon.
That's it.
So it's not removing anything.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I'll show you what it looks like. I'll show you exactly what an expungement looks like. Well, it used to look like in California, and a pardon looks like. I mean, it's sad, but this is the world we live in.
So you've had both?
No, I'm getting my record expunged because expungement is actually sealing the record.
Gotcha.
So there's like a record sealing, and then a pardon is just an acknowledgement from the governor that you're rehabilitated. What that gonna do? You're trying to rent a house.
Got you.
Right?
And what's the cost of doing it? Ballpark. Because somebody out there might be like, shoot, if the cost is that much, F it, I'm just gonna stay with this because I ain't got enough money to pay for attorneys and filing and how long is it gonna take.
It depends in different states, right?
The ballpark.
In California, it's about $100-$200. But
I thought you were gonna say 100,000. I'm like,
no.
Keep that. I'm gonna keep that.
Yeah, keep that.
$100 to $200. But in California, we made it free. We made it free.
So you don't need an attorney.
Nothing.
You don't need an attorney.
You
You can
gotta do
go down
nothing.
there and do it and fill it.
You gotta do nothing. Like if you file pro per, like I did, like you go in there and say I want to represent myself, right? That right there, I paid $110, and that's all I had to pay. Right? I mean, you got to get the copies and all that stuff and serve the DA and serve the court. But again, it's different in every single state, which is the problem, right? It's like if you got cases in multiple states, you're like, what do I do? Mm-hmm. So what we're doing is building a repository saying this is what expungement should look like. This is what expungement is, and this is what expungement should look like, and this is how you navigate. There's nothing out there like this. Mm-hmm. Like this problem is so pervasive. So let me just give you another picture of why this is important. In the last 40 years, America has built this crime response system. Like we don't have a public safety system. We don't have a criminal justice system. We have a crime response system. Real. And they spent $11.5 trillion building this. That's more than what we spent in Iraq and Syria. That's a nation-building operation. And it's the crime response system, jails, prisons, probation, parole, all of it, is the largest employer in the world, only second to the U.S. Department of Defense. That's how, this thing is huge, and it spends $300 billion every single year, and they have lobbyists and associations that protect it. So we're not, when people say end mass incarceration or criminal justice reform, you're not reforming that damn system. That system is here to stay. It is a large part of the American infrastructure.
We need something different, like Mysonne said.
We need something different, but in the process, what happened to all those people in the 70s and 80s that begin to get swept up in the war on drugs, tough on crime era? This is what we're talking about. We always talk about the system itself, but not the people that were harmed by that system, that went through the system. A lot of those folks that were in the 80s and 90s are out on the streets now. That's right. They're literally on the streets now, walking around, and we're like, how do we fix the homeless problem? Because people can't get back on their feet.
It's a fact.
It's
a public safety situation. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? If you put people who have been formerly incarcerated, who have records, and you don't give them opportunities to excel and thrive, then you put the community at risk. Mm-hmm. Because them same people gonna be back in the community. They're gonna figure out how to eat, or they're gonna have to live on the streets, and it makes the public less safe. So I think, what Jay is doing, what the Alliance for Justice and Safety is doing is critical. And I think it's a step forward. Because ultimately, I think after 10 and 15 years and you did one crime, you should be able to protect yourself. You should be able to file for a gun and say, look, I haven't done any crime in 15, 20 years. I should be able to, I'm a homeowner. I live with my family. I'm a business owner. My life is in jeopardy. I have a wife. I should be able to get a gun and be able to protect myself. So I think these are incremental steps that we have to do. First, we start with these expungements, and then we start petitioning for more and more. Because I think after you've done your time and you say your time is done, it's like anything. You should be able to return to society and be a full member of society, not because, if you've done your time for a crime, and especially if you look at the nature of certain these crimes and the time when these crimes are done, they can't reflect at
who that person
18
is,
who
right.
you are at 40 and 50 years old.
right,
It doesn't even make sense.
It's like getting on a dating app, and then every time you try to like swipe left or swipe right, it shows that you've been in a failed relationship. It shows that you were divorced, right? It's like, it's crazy because it's access to data. This is nothing more than access to your data. This is a big data problem, right? The government has your data, and they're selling your data to third-party background check companies, and those third-party background check companies are selling it to private landlords, private companies, and they're using it to make a decision about who you are now and how you interact with the economy. America loses $300 billion in lost wages because we don't allow people to work because of records. $300 billion. And that may seem small, drop in a bucket in terms of our overall GDP in America, but when that $300 billion is regulated to places like the Bronx, and you're like, well, how come there's no investment in the Bronx? Well, shit, people are losing wages because they can't work. So they're living in substandard housing. You know, the most people that have records are going through the justice system are either at or below the supplemental poverty line. You know, we just did a survey, and, you know, the survey was one of the first surveys, a national survey of people with records, right? And we were asking the question, well, why did you commit a crime in the first place? Why did you break the law? People are like, well, I was in crisis. I was in crisis. And then we asked the question, well, you know, did going through the justice system make it worse or better? They're like, worse. And then we asked them, well, what's the problem now? Most people with records, right, the mass majority that went through the deepest end of the justice system in prison, right, are facing extreme economic situations. Extreme. So much so that they're making less than $50,000 and sometimes less than $25,000 a year. That may seem like a lot of money to some people, but when you're feeding eight mouths or 5 mouths, that's insane. And there's no upward mobility. I mean, we talk about, become an entrepreneur. How the hell can you become an entrepreneur when people are depending on you? You know, you got 5 babies at home, 3 babies at home, and all you're trying to do is work. And then you go to work every single day, and they're telling you, well, you can't get a better job. You can't get a career. You can never get, a certificate to make more money. That is insane to me. That we live in the richest country in the world, and because you did something when you were in high school, that now you can advance in the economy. Why are you locking people out of the fucking economy? That is insane to me.
And even when you say you're an entrepreneur, if you want to get into like the weed dispensary business, you still got to fill all of that out.
Yeah, you got to fill out the liquor business if you want to open not only that, if you want to open a club, a bar, or anything with liquor in it, anything with cannabis in it, had to go through the whole thing. Anything with real estate agent, if you want to have anything with kids, if you want to open up a daycare center, anything like that, you have to go
something as simple as global entry. Global entry. Imagine being in your late 30s, your whole family got global entry. You can't even walk with them because you got.
I do it every day.
Me too.
TSA.
I can't even do I ain't even got pre-check.
Yeah, I ain't got pre-check.
Let me get pre-check. I got pre-check.
I ain't damn.
I can get pre-check.
I be in the airport. They just be going through pre-check. I just be sitting there like this.
Nah, they let me get pre-check.
I got pre-check, global entry.
They let me get global entry. I got pre-check.
I ain't gonna lie, for a long time they were pulling me every time, but
they still pull me. Listen, man, it's rough out here, man.
Well, how can people follow?
Lateral consequences. Wow.
Listen. Follow me, IG, Twitter at Mr. J Jordan, spelled all the way out. That's where a lot of the content happens. That's where you get plugged in. At Time Done. You know what I mean? Those two, you can follow us, man. You go to timedone.org. But again, I am here. If you have a record, if you've ever been arrested or incarcerated. So again, people think that having a record is only you went to prison or jail. No, if you've ever been arrested or incarcerated, there is a community for you. Where the community for you that is ensuring that you are economically stable. We will train you, we'll teach you how to advocate, and we are going to pass these laws in every single state. That's what it is.
And we need as many influencers and voices and people who have platforms to speak up against it. It's a lot of people that have been formerly incarcerated within this industry, in so many different industries, and they face these same collateral damages.
Absolutely.
So I'm asking that we connect and we utilize our platforms and try to help this, this whole narrative and this whole movement move forward.
All right. Well, there you have it. It's Mysonne.
Yes.
Brother J Jordan. It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.
Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.